truck here, Christmas Eve. Doing a little troubleshooting on the transmission, hopefully. Yes, I'm up looking at an engine. I'm working on the transmission. I know a few of you folks have asked about my truck. It is a 1988 Ford Ranger. Got the blazing large 2.9 liter electronic fuel injected engine on it. That was apparently good back then. So, been having some transmission troubles. It likes to, when it's leaving work, it likes to slip or shift out of gear. I'm not sure. Take your pick. It's either slipping or it's shifting out of gear. So I'll go to back out of a parking spot, max out fine in reverse, go shift to drive, and I just get a RPM spike, as it'll just sit there and do nothing like it's in neutral. Lately I've been backing into my parking spot so I can drive out, so I don't have to bother with the reverse to drive. That's worked a lot better until lately, where now, where I can drive a little bit, I get a little ways, and then the transmission will start either, like I said, slipping or it's shifting into neutral, which feels like it's shifting into neutral. What happens, it'll shift, it feels like it shifts to neutral, and it'll sit there for a minute, and then it'll feel like it jumps back into gear. You can actually feel that shift as it shifts into gear, so that's why I think it's shifting out of gear, not just slipping. So, I posted on the Ford forums, see if anybody had any suggestions for me. Everybody said, check your vacuum. So, I'm checking vacuum. So I got the vacuum gauge hooked up here. Hopefully folks can see that. We're reading about, let's call that 17. Looks like it's fluctuating up and down, maybe 25, 50. It's holding steady. I warmed the engine up, so the engine is warm. It's been out here running for maybe half hour, maybe a little longer, half hour or so. So it should be warm. Feels good sitting right here. By the way, it's pretty cold out, so I can feel the nice heat off the engine here. Hopefully folks can hear me okay. I know the motor's running here. So, couple of tests. Obviously it's sitting idle in here. It's reading the vacuum, it should, 17. Manual specifies 17 to 22. So, or not, sorry, not 17, 15 to 22. So, and depending on what you look at, 17, according to the official manual, is where it's supposed to be. So, if the official manual is right and says it's supposed to be 17, well, guess what? Dead nuts on 17. Like I said, fluctuating just a little bit, but one thing I will say, this engine doesn't hold its RPM real good. It likes to fluctuate up and down slightly. So, that's something I've never figured out why. It's kind of always done that. It doesn't like to hold RPM at idle real well. So it's probably, if I go look at the RPM gauge, it's probably fluctuating up and down 50. Okay, maybe not. Never mind. It is actually holding it real steady right now. It must be nice and warm or something. Normally it'll fluctuate a little bit. It might be warm enough it's actually running good. Anyway, I'm going to get set up for the next test here. And I just got the normal Haynes manual out here at the moment. I do have the official service manual as well. It's telling me to do quickly snap the throttle open at 2500. The reading should drop to near zero and rise about 5 inches. So if I read that correctly, I'm guessing it should read 22. So 5 over 17 is 22. And then return to the previous idle reading. So it should return back to 17 if I read that correctly. So I got to figure out how I can do that from in the cab. I guess I could bump the throttle on the engine there too, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to look at that. I'll probably stop recording here a minute, see how I can figure out how I can view the gauge there and bump the throttle. And say I can pull this cover off here and give the throttle a bump there. The only thing is I can't tell if I'm at 2500. So thinking I could stick the gauge up through here and hopefully I can see it. So be back in a minute, and if I can do this, I'll try to get you guys a shot of it as well. Okay folks, and I'm back here sitting inside the truck. As you can see, I got my gauge mounted up quite nicely, I think. Using the Mighty D light there because it's got a magnetic base. Magnet to the hood and magnet to the gauge. So, let's see if we snap this open like it said to 2500. And we do that one more time. That's actually a little past 2500. It's about 3. There's 2500. It's doing about 21. Drops back down, returns to, it's holding at about 18, 19 now. I think it's actually the gauge is a little off myself. A little bit of a cheap gauge, so. Because I noticed I unhooked it there for a moment to get this up here, and it returned to about 2. So it might actually be, it's probably actually more like 17 instead of the 18 or 19 it's reading now. It's not quite dropping to 0 though, is it? And that might again be the gauge. Oh yeah, it's dropping. It's dropping. Okay, so I think based on what the manual says here, let me zoom back out. I'm gonna say that's pretty good. Unfortunately, everybody says vacuum issues. I'm gonna have to disagree with them on that. I'm gonna do one more check though, and I'm gonna pull. You folks may remember I did a video a while back on changing the vacuum modulator. The transmission worked great after I did that. It worked good for a couple of months. And maybe coincidence, I don't know, but it's gone back to working like crap again, like I said at the beginning of the video there. But I'm going to get down there, I'm going to pull that off, I'm going to hook the vacuum up to that down there. See if I got split my hose or vacuum's not getting down to the transmission. I don't know. Going to find out. Yeah, everybody said check my vacuum lines. I know it's kind of dark here, but I mean, as you can see, they're nice and rubbery. There's no dry cracks on them. They look like they're in, I'm not going to say perfect shape, but they're good. So, we'll be back in a minute again. Hopefully I can get you guys set up so I can record that down there. Got to get a creeper out, got to pull the line off, etc. So, back in a minute. Okay folks, I've got the vacuum line disconnected from the modulator coming down to my gauge here, and as you can see, yeah, like I said, cheap gauge, it's reading 3 or 4 there. So I'm not 100% sure about the accuracy of this at this point. It started out at 0 when I first started, so 17 I'm pretty sure is an accurate number. Hopefully maybe we'll see like a 20 down here or something. I'm assuming anyway that's how it's going to work, or maybe a little less because obviously it's routing down and through and whatnot. One thing I would like to emphasize, and I think this may be what people keep saying vacuum related, the vacuum modulator on this truck does not actually go into the transmission. It operates a pin in the transmission. So this transmission doesn't, to my knowledge, have any actual vacuum, engine vacuum going into it. As far as I know, unless there's another vacuum line somewhere. But anyway, I'm going to start it up and we'll see what we got. Okay, so as it warms up, yeah, it's going up to about 21, 22 there, so considering it reading about 17 before, I'd say we got the same engine vacuum down here. Which I'd say is what you want to see, I would think. Not necessarily an expert on these, but that seems to be about right. And yes, I know the gauge is on its side. That might be why it's reading off too, maybe, I don't know, but that looks to be good. I'm going to rev it up here a minute. I'm not going to be able to see that because it's down here. I'll probably go back and play the video back just to see what it shows, but I'll go do that in a minute. hopefully you folks are able to see that. Now I'm going to stop the video and look at it so I can see it. Well, folks, I think that's going to about wrap it up for this. I'm not sure what else I can do at this point vacuum-wise. I think I've ruled that out, I think. Like I said, vacuum seems like it's good. Vacuum lines are good. Like I was saying, I think what's confusing people when I ask the question about this, vacuum does not actually go, to my knowledge, from this engine to that transmission, other than that modulator. And that modulator doesn't actually, again, this is to my knowledge, from my understanding, doesn't actually put any vacuum into that transmission. It just operates a pin in the transmission that determines how hard and soft the transmission shifts while going down the road. So if you're really hammering on it, it'll, I think it pushes the pin in and the transmission shifts softer. If I got that right, I'm not 100% sure. I believe that's how that works. So yeah, like I said, no vacuum from this engine goes into the transmission to my knowledge, unless there's a line somewhere here I'm missing. But brake, fuel regulator, I believe that is, and then to the transmission here. And then there's the test plug back here. Hopefully folks can see that okay. So yeah, drum, fuel pump, regulator, transmission, and then I believe there is a line on this side. Nope, that actually comes from up here. So that goes back to whatever that doohickey is there. I know I've looked it up before as to what that is. I don't recall what it is at this point, but anyway. So yeah, you folks are welcome to comment if you got any suggestions as to what you think I can check out for this transmission. Obviously trying to avoid a transmission rebuild overhaul. I'm hoping for something simple. Which unfortunately I don't think it's going to be something simple. I'm pretty sure there's something in the transmission itself that's going bad. It's kind of too bad because the engine seems like it runs great yet. Leaks oil, which I think is a good thing because the underside of this truck is not very rusty. And it leaks about a quart per oil change. So about every 3 months you got to put a quart in it or change the oil. Take your pick. So. And then most of the oil I think is probably up by the valve covers here. That's probably where it's leaking. The oil pan itself might be leaking a little bit too, and the drain plug, which I've got to replace that. I'm pretty sure the drain plug's leaking a little bit, so got a new drain plug for the next time we change it. Other than that, this truck has been running good. No major overhauls on the engine. It's original. Same thing with transmission. Original. Same thing with pretty much everything on this truck. It's original. So. I'm not aware of any most major thing I've done on this truck, at least myself anyway, and you folks probably aren't going to be able to see it. If I had a light, you know what, I had my light. Where did I put my light? No, I did not put it in there. I hung it back up. What else would I do with it? Yeah, that makes sense. Hang it back up. So light. I don't know if you folks can see down in there, but if you can see the weld mark on the exhaust manifold there, I had a cracked exhaust manifold. I had to pull that sucker out of there and get it welded up. Yeah, you folks should be able to see it pretty good there now. So you can see that weld there. That was probably about the biggest repair job I've done in this truck. But like I said, on that, everything else is pretty much original. And for that matter, the exhaust manifold is still original. It's just welded up. So yeah, like I said, you folks have any things I can try, suggestions as to what might be wrong, preferably suggestions that don't involve fixing the transmission, let me know. And as always, have a Merry Christmas.